Hello everyone. So, if you are not new to my channel, you probably know that I've been missing in action over the last little while. There's a very good reasoning for that. Life has been crazy. Things have been completely out of whack and turned upside down. So therefore, hobbies, things that I do for fun kind of fell by the wayside because I had to take care of some major changes that have been going on in my life. And in case you have been a long-term subscriber, I just wanted to update you on what kind of things I've been up to. It's kind of fun to share some aspects of your life. So I am quite private and I don't share a lot about my personal life online, but this is a kind of a fun topic, and I'm sure there are going to be people who are self-employed who completely understand what I'm talking about here. So the changes that I'm talking about have started in July. In June, I finished my previous work. I took July to have a little bit of time in between. And then July was really a month that I was setting up my clinic. I have opened a clinic. If you are not new to my channel, you probably know that I am a physician with an interest in small procedures. So hence why I wanted to really customize what I'm doing and be very specific about the kind of work I take on and the kind of work I do. I also was completely over at that point working for other people on other people's schedule. I was very over people telling me when to work and how. And the other thing that I was completely over, and if you're in medicine, you will understand, if you're a nurse, if you're a social worker, if you're anybody who does call freaking sucks. It sucks so bad. I had a lot of resentment working the crazy hours that I was working, and I was completely disinterested in working in a place that would require for me to cover call, nighttime, daytime, weekend, whenever. I was just not interested. I was imagining my life being a lot more settled down, a lot more structured. I imagined having a lot more control over my time, the hours that I work, and how many people I see in those hours that I work. Generally, I just really craved more control than what the hospital system was providing me with. If you work in the hospital system, you do know that, for instance, if you're a nurse, you have to do a certain amount of daytime shifts, certain amount of nighttime shifts. Most often they have those kinds of calculations and rules. Oftentimes you're covering for colleagues. It's very nice to have that collegiality. But I was, and I think I will miss that going forward, but I was really, really not interested in sacrificing my personal time and my family time to work anymore. I was done with it. So being the nutto that I am, I decided, well, if I want control, I need to take more responsibility. I will open my own clinic. As always, out of the searing pan into the fire, is that the saying? But of course, it was incredibly busy and hard and nerve-wracking and just like a huge undertaking. If I was smarter, it would have been harder to open my clinic because I would probably have hesitated a lot more. But I didn't hesitate. I just sort of went for it. And this is kind of the pattern that I have in my life whenever there is a big decision to be made. If I sit down and think about it and judge that that's a good decision, that's all I need to know, and I just dive right in. And this is exactly what happened with the clinic. I'm happy to say that it's been working out. I'm shocked at the fact that it's actually working, and the routine is actually working. What I'm doing is actually working, because it wasn't an afterthought. It was something that I was kind of thinking about for maybe the last year. But I gotta say, if I knew all the intricacies of the difficulties that are connected to opening your own business, I would probably have thought about it a little harder and a little longer, but I didn't. I just went for it. Like I said, that's exactly what happened. So here we are, 2 months into the clinic being opened. I'm liking it. I'm really loving not having call. I love being my own boss. I think that it's paying off already, even though the clinic is very new and everything is still very fresh and new and hard. I think it's still worth it for me, because for me, in my mind, having more control over my time and my life is actually what I was craving. It wasn't necessarily working less, it was just not being told what to do. And I think I am the sort of an individual that really does not like working under somebody else's roof and somebody else's rules. So here we are. So the clinic that I'm working in, I have open and shared with another physician. We don't share anything except for space. I have my own side of the clinic. She has her own side of the clinic. We get along great. We share some of the supplies, like paper and stuff, but really not much else. We just share a little bit of space, and sometimes we'll cover for each other if she leaves and her patients need to be seen urgently. I'll leave space in my schedule for when she's away, that her patients are capable of coming and seeing me, and vice versa. So that has worked quite well. And one of the biggest things for me was that I am a doctor who's really interested in small procedures, injections, all kinds of interesting things. I love working with my hands. I'm not interested in surgical lifestyle, so that's why I would have never chosen surgery, and that was never really on the roster of things I was even thinking about, because surgical specialties, they're very specific kind of people that can tolerate very specific kind of lifestyle over a long period of time, and that's not me. I am very heavily interested in having an actually decent lifestyle, and right now I'm not even talking about money. I'm talking about time, quality of life, the time that you spend doing things that you love. You can't buy that. So I went into a field that is much less lucrative than most of the others for that very reason. I wanted variety, I wanted freedom, I wanted a ton of autonomy. I didn't want to be dependent on a hospital necessarily, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and for nobody to be able to raise their finger, wag it, and tell me what I need. Or how I need to do it. So I'm sure you're pretty sick of me actually emphasizing that, but I haven't really been very as open as I am right now about talking about these kinds of caveats of the profession. We're quite a closed profession, honestly. We don't share a lot of what's going on in the medical field or in the medical profession or any of the sometimes intricacies of everyday work. So my clinic is going to have a procedure room. This is where I'm going with this, basically. One of the big things was that I could not find a place that I would like, and I would like the people in, and I would like the vibes in, and like a clinic that would provide me with a procedure room which I could use whenever I wanted, because these things are quite expensive to install and start running. In my mind, I was like, well, this is what I want to do. I want to do lots of little procedures, and I have fun doing those. Those are my best days. I enjoy small procedures tremendously, and I really wanted to make that part of my practice, like part of my practice weekly, often. So the answer to me was clear. The answer to me was, well, then I will have to make my own little space. If nobody will give me the space that I'm looking for at a price that I'm okay with, then that's what I'll do. I'll set up my own. And since not a lot of people have procedure clinics in the area that I work in, I was thinking to myself, oh, it's a big gamble because it's a huge investment on my part, giant, but to me, I want to do it and I want to try it. And if I'm going to do something full on, I'm going to do it full on. My version of full on is just going for precisely the sort of setup that I would find ideal. I wasn't willing to compromise on much, so here we are. This is what made the last 2 months very difficult, because setting up your own business, opening up a clinic when you never opened up a clinic before, I've never owned a business before. Luckily, my husband is a small business owner, so he already had a lot of knowledge of how to set up accounting and bookkeeping and payroll and all these things that I would know nothing about. Fortunately, I had somebody in my life, luckily my husband, who was interested in helping me with all of that on my own time, and that was great. I'm super, super lucky and grateful, and at this point, honestly, the clinic is kind of like a family project, because my husband takes so much stress away with the detail, precise bookkeeping stuff and all of that. He takes care of that, so and he's very proficient and apt to be able to do that. This fits his personality to a T. He's a manager, micromanager, and he's very good at detail-oriented activity. So actually, he's happy and enjoying himself doing some work for my clinic, and I'm very happy because I have a very reliable person working with me who can do a lot of the things that I wouldn't trust other people to do, and takes a lot of pressure off of me. I can actually focus on how to make the clinic most effective, most efficient, most well run from the medicine standpoint, and he can take care of some of the administrative things. So that's been working beautifully. It's been a blessing for both of us, and that makes the whole hassle kerfuffle worth it, because now it's our project. The two of us are working on it, and it just is so much more comfortable when you're working with somebody you trust completely and totally. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't marry him, if I didn't trust him, that is. So that's kind of the update. I've opened a clinic. I'm equipping it for small procedures right now. I'm just running a business, I suppose, and doing my own thing. And so far it's been working out great. Not being on call all the time is fantastic. I don't know why people wouldn't do what I'm doing, because lifestyle of a physician who's on call a lot is it's really crappy. Like, honestly, it's not good. At least it wasn't good for me. Some physicians, I shouldn't say that, shouldn't generalize. I think there are probably people out there who really like it, but I just haven't met them, and I've met a lot of doctors. I haven't met anybody who's excited to be called on a Sunday night to come in and work overnight and work over Christmas and work over Thanksgiving. Like, there are not a lot of people out there who love that sort of thing. And we accept it generally as medical professionals because it comes with the profession. For me, though, my goal was really to find an alternative where I could still be comfortable, and where I would call the shots, and where the time working wouldn't interfere with time living. I think my generation of physicians is probably far more focused on lifestyle than any other generation of doctors before, because I think from what I've observed, and also from some of the literature out there right now on generational theory, and on physicianship and physicianship theory, really has to do with the fact that my generation is probably far more interested in autonomy, flexible work hours in general, but that the physicians within my generation are also far less identifying with their societal role as a doctor. So and they see themselves as a person, not as a doctor with these kinds of responsibilities who should be available at all times just because you're a doctor. And probably, at least that's what I'm seeing within my class above me, class below me, looking overall at what people are looking for. There are people who really love their craft and will give things up to be able to practice their craft. And that's admirable. They don't necessarily enjoy those sacrifices that they have to make, but it's just part of the gig. And then there are a lot of people like myself who see it as work, as a job, as something you should do well, but not as an identity. I don't identify as a physician. I don't identify as a doctor. I don't identify as a medical professional even. It's just my job. Like, probably a foot care specialist or a podiatrist or a manicurist. Like, they don't identify themselves with what they do. It's just the job that they do. And I think my generation of physicians had really started to adopt that thinking far more than any of the other physician generations ahead of us. So there is a bit of a distaste for what I'm talking about, meaning that, okay, I want to draw a very clear line between my professional life and my personal life. And my professional life, I will not let encroach on my personal life. I will do my job and I will do it well. And I would work very hard on being as good as possible at my job as I would at any other job. But it's not an identity for me. It's a profession, probably not even a career. It's a profession, and I want to be good at it and I want to get better at it. But in no way will it ever take precedent over my personal life, my family, my own time. This is, I think, what I've learned by actually working within the field is you have to have a very clear line. Otherwise, it will eat you. It will eat you, it will scratch your eyeballs out, it'll digest you and poop you out as waste. That is what medicine can do to you if you let it. At least that's what I've observed. Again, I've seen many people burn out. I came pretty close to burnout myself because of really, really crazy scheduling that you do as a resident. And if you're a medical resident or a nurse or some other medical professional who works at those kinds of hours, you will understand what I'm talking about. It's really not a good quality of life. So I think it's worthwhile talking about, because I've mentioned it here and there, but I've never really made a video talking to you guys about it and making it very clear what kind of boundaries one should have. And we're going to talk in the future about, boundaries in your personal relationship with people and how important boundaries are to your well-being and mental health. And I think over the last year, I really understood where I should place my boundaries. They were way wide. They were far too vast. And it is not healthy when your boundaries are wide. When your empathy and sympathy are both unconditional. It should not be like that. It doesn't make you a better doctor, doesn't make you a better healthcare professional, does not necessarily even make you a better human in any way. If you do give people full access to all your empathy and your innards and your time and your energy, it should be limited. It should be limited to what is necessary and no more. And I think opening up the clinic really taught me that, and really taught me that that is possible and that's okay. We're constantly being made feel guilty, not even necessarily in medicine, but in general in your life. You're supposed to be available at all times to your family, to your friends if they call in distress. You're supposed to be there for people you barely know. Sometimes that is expected. If you're working with people or are a problem solver, people expect you to be there in that capacity. For me, it's also a professional thing. And it's become very clear over the last few years of actually working within the field that that is so unsustainable and so toxic that it changes people, it changes the core of who they are, and it creates a lot of bitterness and resentment. And I was feeling that towards the end of when I was not working for myself, and now that I am. I think it's going to, in the future, going forward, probably make a ton of difference for me to be able to call the shots. Because having so little control over your time, so little control over your schedule and life, has been, at least for me, incredibly draining and very, it made me kind of hate what I was doing. And I think that's really bad, especially if you are in a profession that's supposed to be helping people. It can be internally devastating to realize then, what, I hate doing this. I wish I wasn't here. And you spend so long investing into this field. You spend the time, you spend the effort, you spend the energy. You had tons of delayed gratification, meaning that you put off doing things that you want to do so far into the future that there isn't even an end in sight. And I think we tend to get stuck in that. So for me, the healthiest option was probably doing my own thing. And that's kind of what I was focused on doing. And that's why I've been absent, because I was focusing all of my time and energy on putting that together. I encourage you to take a good think about boundaries, because boundaries are so incredibly important and not a topic we cover enough. I would like to speak to it in the future as well. Think about boundaries, guys. Boundaries had done wonders for me in the last couple of months, and I'm a better human for it now than I have been in the last 6 months working the work that I was working. That's a lot of working words. Anyway, this video is getting too long. This is kind of an update and a flavor of what's been going on with me, and basically a very sort of brief explanation of why I've been absent for a while. And why I decided not to half-ass YouTube and just to wait until I was feeling up to it again. Honestly, a couple months ago, I wasn't even sure if I was going to continue YouTube because it was just getting too much. It was messy. It was taking away from my energy. I wasn't really as excited to do YouTube anymore as I have been in the past. And I think it showed, maybe not, I'm not sure. And so I wanted a little break. I wanted to focus on my primary goal, which was getting things off the ground with work. And I think I did do that already. And today I woke up in the morning and I thought to myself, I kind of feel like filming and I will do that. I can do it. Let's do it. So here we are. You can expect videos on an ongoing basis from me in the future. I'm not sure how often I'll be able to film, but we'll settle into some kind of a schedule and I will be back. I will be continuing to do the things that I love doing, but I do want to expand my channel, cast the net a little bit wider. And of course, I'll still be talking about maybe minimalism, moderation, and consumerism. I'll be talking about favorites. I'll be talking about empties. I'll be talking about polishes and Project Pan. Those are kinds of things that are lighthearted and I enjoy. But I might dive into other topics. Like, for instance, today we touched on boundary setting, and it's so integral to our life and how we present ourselves and work, function in our life. Those are the kinds of topics I think I would like to integrate here and there. So we'll see how it goes. I'm basically letting it free flow, letting my inspiration take me to the direction that I'm going to be going. We'll see how this evolves. I have a feeling, though, that my channel is going to change a bit in terms of what kind of content I put out, just because what I'm thinking about has been changing. You know, I've been practicing certain things in my life that have been helpful and I'd like to cover. And also maybe a little bit more mindfulness will enter this channel because it's kind of starting to permeate my life now that I have a chance to stop, breathe, and think about it. So that's it for today. I hope it was an interesting update. If you're a subscriber, you probably were interested in finding out what's been up and why I haven't posted. This is why. That's it for today. See you guys later. Have a wonderful day. Good luck. And I'll be seeing you soon. Bye.